Okay, welcome back to day 281. Tick, tick, tick. TikTok, I guess. Anyways, we're getting close to the end. We are getting very close. I thought something was on my face. It's on my screen, it's fine. It's like, oh god, what is it? It's fine. Anyways, what? Yeah, do you guys ever realize that when you're doing laundry and you separate a certain color and you're like, most of my clothes are in this color, in this. I have that where this is the only red piece of pajama clothing I have, like sleep clothing I have, but I have so many winter clothes in red, and now I got 2 sweatpants. Besides that, it's like, here's a hoodie, here are this is orange, but I put oranges and reds together, and sometimes yellows, depending on how daring I am, and also browns, but I don't really have too many browns. So anyways, and you're like, oh, well, they're fall. I'm like, no, these are my heavy winter, like, hoodie, but I guess the cardigan sweater is fall, but it's just funny to me that I'm just like, Anyways, I felt really warm earlier, but I don't think it was a fever, but I'm terrified of COVID. I'm terrified of it. So I'm like, oh my god, if I'm sick. But I don't think I am. I think it really is just, I ran up and down the stairs like 3 times and I got hot. And I washed my hands in too hot of water. But anyways, right now my nose is kind of red. That's fun. But it was really funny because I was looking back through old videos, like I told you, and I wanted to hear when my voice changed. And one of the videos, I just had blush just all the way right here, and I just couldn't help being like, dude, you were sick, weren't you? And I don't know, maybe I just had allergies, or it was bad allergies that day, but I was just like, dude, you're sick, like, you have something. Just calm down. Because I remember when it was pre-COVID, it was the January before COVID hit, like became into a pandemic, so I guess January 2020, and I have this really, like, there's a family, like me, my sibling, my uncle, my sibling, all sitting there, and I'm just like, and I remember going, oh god, I feel miserable, because I was really sick, and where, like, it was the flu. So I felt awful. The kids definitely gave it to me, but never mind that. So I'm just sitting there like, I feel awful, but I'm smiling. And I'm looking through these photos a little bit later, like months later, and I'm like, oh, this one is so cute. Oh, and I'm like, yeah, and I had like little blush. I'm like, when you have blush, that means you have a fever, you idiot. And I'm like, oh, right, I was sick. It was so funny to me because I'm like, oh, I look so cute, look at that. And it's like, yeah, because you're sick. And I'm like, yeah. So whenever I get blush, like right here, I have a, like, for sure, I have a fever, and it just isn't good. It just is not good. It's a weird thing because I usually, how long was this? A year and a few months. Usually I don't watch older YouTube videos too much, which is really an interesting thing, where there are some times I watch it, but I think it's depending on the age of the people in it. Like, I've rewatched the Game Grumps 10-minute Power Hours and stuff like that, but I would never go back and watch too old of a year and a couple months. Isn't that old? Oh yeah, so anyways, I don't usually watch videos that are too old, especially when the inhabitants of the video are young. So this video is creeping up to being Ethan's very young. Like, I would never watch 2.5-year-old video of something, especially like this. And like a weirder video, and like all of Mark's weird endeavors, especially with Ethan in it, like back with the eggnog hot tub, no, it's not a hot tub, bathtub, or like eggnog bathtub, or hot chocolate bathtub, or any of that. It's a little, which is funny because Markiplier makes kind of works. I feel like Mark cheated on those, but that's a whole different issue. Anyways, and then, but it's interesting because Unus Annus, especially, some of them are 100% what I would go and rewatch. And I guess Ethan isn't the youngest, so I would watch that too. But it's I don't know why. It's just like once we get past a certain point, it just like kind of start weighing. Like, do I want to rewatch this? See, something like the Game Grumps, where even if it is 3-4 years ago, they're adult men, so they don't really. And obviously that doesn't mean they don't change at all. However, you aren't as changing as a 23 to 24-year-old. You know what I'm saying? So, okay, so hear me out. No drama. However, I don't really know anything about this side of YouTube, like, at all. But my sibling was talking, like, blah, 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 and then, like, Tana Mojo, and I was like, who? And then I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I seen her. I seen, somebody talk, or I seen thumbnails of people talking about her, and her reality show. My sibling's like, yeah, blah, blah, 21 at that point or something, and I'm like, she's not 21. And my sibling's like, that's the point. 1 second, let me get to it. I'm like, no, wait. What? And she's like, no, I'm talking about that. I have a theory that she's not 21, and people think that she's not 21 because blank. And I'm like, wait, are you saying that she was actually 21? She's like, yes. I'm like, no, she's not 21. But then I remember that her reality show was Tana turns 21, and I'm like, she's not younger than me. Like, she literally can't be. Like, I don't know why she gives me older vibes, but obviously that can be swayed and stuff, but it's just like, I'm not trying to be, like, rude to her. It just was like, what? It was one of those things I'm like, what? Give it, people think she's a plant, but this other person, not Tana, no, I don't know. People might. I have no idea anything about her. I literally barely know her name. But what happened is there was Bella Porsche, and she made that song. That was definitely just a ripoff of a post that went around years ago. It was a post that just went around years ago that was the same line for line, same thing. Anyways, the point was that, what was the point? Oh yeah, the point was that she apparently is supposed to be early 20s, mid 20s. I don't know, mid 20s maybe. But I don't know why. I just like younger 20s though would not work. I don't know why. I've seen her for like 0.2 seconds, and like no, it just didn't. I don't know, you know, it's like one of those things I'm like, oh, but apparently it's like a thing that's like, oh, she's a plant, so her age is like dialed down. And I'm like, okay, it's just a weird thing that it's not on, if either of them, I wouldn't say it's on either of them if it is some reason true, but obviously if it's not, like, don't be rude and speculate and be rude about things. But what I'm saying is not on them. If, especially, like, oh, we'll choose a plant. Like, okay, well, why do you have to feel the need to age down? Two women having to age themselves down is because there's an ideal age of 18 to 23. Anything too old, anything too young, it's not okay. So if they're 35, wouldn't know if either of them are 35. But the idea of being 35 for a woman is different. You know, people are like, oh wow, look how sexy these men are in their 40s. But if a woman, and people are like, oh look, she's sexy in her 40s, it's like, no. Or it's opposite, where it's like, oh, she's 40, look, she hasn't aged a day since the 90s. It's like, maybe she's allowed to age, you know, like, maybe let women age, you know. So if someone's like, I have to lie, not just to appeal to the youths, I mean, I have to lie because being 30 something isn't good in this industry. It's the industry's fault. It's not someone's age. So, yeah. It's one of those things where, and I know there's another, and I don't know her name, but I heard of, because she was a minor either way, so I don't care. Well, I care for her, but I don't care about people talking about her, you know. But what happened is, also again, name dropping a minor is not gonna happen, even if she puts herself on the internet. Not gonna happen. What happened is that apparently she was saying that she was like 16 or 17 or whatever, but apparently she was like 14. And I'm just like, at a certain point, it also has to do with the parents. So it's like not okay. It also is a really big thing that, like, aging up, I mean, like, counting down when a women are turning 18, and it's such a big thing that it happened, oh man, what actresses, it happened to a bunch of actresses, where there were literally just websites counting down to when they were turning 18, and I'm like, that's sick, that's gross, because the idea of me being able to date an 18-year-old is weird, and I'm in my 20s. I wouldn't, especially if that's the first thing I think about them, is like, oh, they're turning 18 in this many days. It's like, no, that's so gross. And the idea that people are so gross with, very recently, Billie Eilish, and she turned 18, and people are like, we can finally sexualize her. It's like, oh, don't. And this happened with a bunch of other people too, where it's gross. It just is plain gross. And it just, so yeah, when people, it was, I think, Karen Knightley, and then people sexualized Emma Watson, and people sexually, but they didn't do that to other people's counterparts, like sexualizing, you know, I'm trying to remember what his name is, Daniel Radcliffe. They didn't do that to the same degree at all. And I remember growing up looking up the characters from Full House, because I watched Full House, and I remember looking up the actress for Stephanie, and people were just like, her boobs, and like that was all the articles I could find, and I'm just like, I just wanted to know what she was up to, and how she looked like post Full House being out at that point and ending. So I just wanted to know what was going on, but yeah, that was all I could find, was just talking about her boobs, not new ones. Like, they were talking about, like, in the last couple of seasons, or especially the last season, question mark, of Full House, they were talking about how she was developing. When she was developing, like the news was just all about that moment of her developing, and it was so gross. And that's what I found when I looked her up, and and the idea that and looking back, it's with Keira Knightley. I watched her in Pirates of the Caribbean, and apparently she was like 17 when they started filming that, and I don't know how old I was with the first Pirates of the Caribbean. Honestly, I don't remember when it came out. Was it 2005? Anyways, I was not that old. Well, depends. Anyways, I was still like a child, more or less. Or more, I guess. I was a child. So what happened was, the idea that looking back and being like, that's a 17-year-old, throws me. It just does. I really want to rewatch them, but I'm terrified of that, and I don't know. I don't know, like, growing up, I still thought she was older in it, and the layer was like, she was 17. I'm like, she was 17? She was 17? And everyone gave her crap for leaving after the third movie. But what? How many years after was that? She was 17. She was like 23 or something. I don't know why I'm doubling each year in between. Yeah, let her play other roles. Let her go live her life, especially if it was a contract where she can play multiple roles at once. Who cares? Like, looking back and having it be like that. And Britney Spears was a huge one. My dad was really weird with Britney Spears, and I'm like, and I was like, okay. And it was just like a big thing. And then the whole thing with Britney Spears in 2007, and I'm like, I can see why. I never understood that, and I'm so glad people now are realizing how bad all that was. You know what I'm saying? Like, how bad that situation was for her. I'm glad people are finally realizing that and talking about it.